I also wanted to touch on is like the seasonality of our lives and of our businesses. I
Mhm.
think that when we make plans for things and we set goals for ourselves, we don't really think about the seasonality. We just assume that everything that's happened up until this point will kind of just extrapolate out. And it's just not like that. And it could
Mhm.
be a health thing, it could be like a natural disaster, it
Yeah,
could be a virus, it could be anything,
right.
and or like a death in the family, or like you break your leg, or
Yeah.
you can't drive anymore, or whatever it may be, but we don't factor that in. And then we're really hard on ourselves when we need to change the goals and
Mhm.
change the parameters that we're working with, even though it's actually we couldn't have known that.
Yeah. Some things I just picked up on and what you're talking about. I mean, certainly to be a freelancer, to be successful, you have to have a certain mindset about growth. And there's that part of us that wants to extrapolate a really good quarter to like, it's always going to be like this, we're going to
Yeah.
make so much money. But you're right, things change, life happens. And I think one thing I've really been reflecting on about this challenging season I've been through is how having a healthy mindset and allowing yourself to change your goals builds resiliency. Because if you're fighting it the whole time and you're just making it more challenging, but slowing down, letting yourself rest and heal and switching the mindset that that's okay, I think that's what has really made this a lot more doable.
Yeah, yeah, and it really helps to have people you can talk to
Yeah,
about that,
yeah.
because it really doesn't sound rational a lot of the time when you try to explain it to someone that
Mhm.
that you can slow down, but your
Mhm,
brain doesn't want you to, and it feels really bad.
mhm.
But that's a
Yeah,
real thing. That's a real struggle that a lot
yeah.
of us face, and it happens to me still now all the time. I mean, just yesterday, I was talking to my partner about this. I was like, I had so much that I wanted to do today, and I've got this whole list, but I just don't feel physically like I can do all of it. And
Mm,
so I was like, let's prioritize the things, because if I could only do half of it, at least I can do the stuff that matters more. But then I still felt really bad that I wasn't going to be able to do all of it. So we had to actually like work through that. Like,
mhm,
why can't I just let it be okay? Like,
mhm,
what am I worried is actually going to happen? And then it always, for me, comes back to my childhood and like traumatic things that happened, especially at the weekend, where if I wasn't doing things all the time, bad things would happen. And
mhm,
that's what I
mhm,
learned from that. And
mm,
so I know that about myself. And I know that I have a really hard time with weekends in particular, because there's this like adult version of my brain that's like, you're supposed to rest and you're supposed to have fun and do, enjoyable things when you're not working. But then there's the child version of my brain that's like, you have to be so productive at the weekends to protect yourself. And so, like, working through all of that and having to reframe the way that we look at things is really hard. And even if you do have someone supporting you, or you have like a therapist or a coach or
mhm.
somebody, it's not something that just happens overnight. And
No, yeah,
you've learned these things, and they're so deep rooted into how you function,
mhm,
that just telling yourself to slow down or telling yourself you can work less isn't enough.
mhm.
Like, we really have to address where that fear and hesitation or resistance is coming from, so that we can reassure ourselves and calm our nervous system that
Yes.
nothing bad will happen.
What you just said really resonated about calming your nervous system. I have been in a place in life where I was before, where there was a huge emphasis placed on hyperproductivity. I developed some trauma around feeling unproductive, even when I was productive, like if it wasn't productive enough. I feel for a very long time I was living in a place where I was not honoring or listening to my own intuition about many things in life. And as my nervous system calmed down in this new environment and I'm able to focus on healing and work, I really have been paying more attention to that intuition. And I have known this about myself. I'm someone who can be very hyper productive some days and just knock stuff out. And then there's some days where I really struggle with that to-do list like you're talking about. And one thing I've been doing now is when I'm feeling that way, I get up and I go for a walk. Even if it's just 15 minutes, I go for a walk. Where I am now, there's 5 flights of stairs. I run the stairs. I put my running shoes on. I don't even change my clothes out of my work clothes sometimes. I just run up and down the stairs for 10 minutes, and then I can sit down and focus. And those are things I never used to do before, but I'm finding it very grounding because it helps get rid of whatever that monkey in my brain is that's not letting me focus on work. Whereas before it was just, I felt like I had to be heads down at my desk working all the time. And that wasn't honoring how my brain and body need to work.
Yeah, I would totally resonate with that. And a lot of our students are highly intuitive people, and I'm often helping them navigate how do you actually operate from a very intuitive place when so many people around us are more in the rational or logical decision making. You know, they look for the facts and the data and the reasons, and like this led to that, which led to this, which means that this is the best approach. And often we just know what the right thing to do is, and we don't know how we know that, but we do. And so what you said earlier about kind of like almost disassociating and kind of like coaching yourself through something, that has been a really critical part of me being able to tap into my intuition more. And I think that's a tactical thing that we can take from this conversation as well, where if that's the easier way for you to kind of separate out, like I kind of see it as if I'm taking my intuitive self out, and it's like someone who just knows what's best for me. They just know. It's kind of like a higher self or something like that. And then it is like hearing that voice from that entity that tells me, you're just tired, you need to sleep. Like you know, like you feel like everything's terrible right now, but what if you're just tired and that's why you feel this way? Like things like that, where it's actually really simple, but you wouldn't have listened to it otherwise. You would have like trying to explain and problem solve and like get yourself out of something so actively that you miss the actual point.
Yeah, and I see myself in both of those personalities you described. I mean, I am the logical, analytical, where's the evidence? What's the logic? How are we going to break this down into hierarchical steps? Like that is definitely me, but I have not been paying attention to the other side of myself for a very long time. The one that's like, you know, we need to slow down and think about this, or what's my gut check? I would just ignore that before. But that's where walking for 30 minutes a day has helped. It gives me that time and space to think and reflect. I think I pushed through a lot of things for a long time and ignored the human side, the emotional side of me. And I'm interested to see how this will inform my work as I pay more attention to it, not in the writing so much, but in the soft skills of client management. I think it will be very helpful if I can grow that side of myself.
Yeah. And I think even just in that, you know, going for a walk or running up and down stairs, kind of coping mechanism almost, like I do similar things, but the reasons why I do them are very different. And I think, again, just to reiterate that, we need to know, it's more important or helpful to know why we do what we do, or why something is helping us, as opposed to just attaching to that activity helps me, because that could have a complete disconnect from what your intuition is telling you if you're not careful. So it does generally benefit me to go for a walk, but what I've realized is what I actually need is to just change my environment. I either need to like feel the sun on my face because it's kind of grounding, or I just need to be in a different environment. It helps me like move through all the stuff that's going on in my head. So sometimes I will just sit on my balcony for a bit and that's enough. And sometimes I'll just go up the street and sit on a bench and drink coffee and then come back. And sometimes it will be more of a walk or more of an outing, but it doesn't need to be. It can be just so simple because I've kind of boiled it down to what the need is. And so I just think, again, like if we can try to ask our intuitive self what they think, as opposed to like the practical version of ourselves, they might be quite different or they might be the same.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's because I think the change of scenery helps me, but it's also something about movement and blood flow. Like my brain
Right.
feels cleared out afterwards that is very
Yeah.
beneficial to me. With my more highly structured self, I used to think like, oh, I need an hour to ride my bike and I need 2 hours to go down to the Y and swim. And now it's like, no, I think I just need like 15 to 20 minutes, like just get my blood flowing and then I'll sit back down and work. And in really tight deadlines, like last week I had a client where one project slipped by the start date slipped by 48 hours, but somebody else in their company in a different department had this urgent need with, I mean, it was like one of these fast turnaround projects. So we did it, but it was one of those ones where you were like at your desk for 10 hours a day trying to crank this thing out. So I just put my yoga mat by the desk and I would just every hour I'd just get up and stretch for 10 minutes, then sit back down and work and just crank through it. And I can do that for time limited projects. I wouldn't want to do that every day, but they were so happy. They were so pleased with it. I think it's learning those little tricks of like what will get you through those
Mhm.
hard time crunches and what do you
Yeah.
in a more chronic sense so that you can do this
Yes.
day in, day out throughout the
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
With the adaptability built into how you do it.
Yeah.
Because similar for me, I was hesitant to get a YMCA membership for a long time because I felt like if I got a membership, that meant that I had to go a certain amount of time to make it worthwhile. And then when I go, this is my routine and all that. And it was just not flexible enough. And
Mhm.
I did the free trial and I started to kind of get a feel of it. And I really tried to ask myself, what is the objective here? Because the objective is not like swim for a certain amount of time or spend a certain amount of time. Like, what is the thing that I actually want to get out of it? And I realized that it is mostly changing my environment. And the second thing was just like relaxing
Mhm.
without my phone or my computer around. I can't physically do work because I'm like in an environment where that's not allowed. So then once I realized that, I was like, oh, well, technically I don't have to do anything. I just have to go there.
Yeah.
And so that's already a win. So like then I was like, oh, cool. So like now I just have
Mhm.
some time blocks where I intend to go there. Some of them I just get rid of because in the moment I don't really want to go there. But
Mhm.
when I do, I'm like, all I have to do is show up and then I win. And
Yeah.
then half the time, like I do want to swim or there's other things. And the other half, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go in the hot tub, or like I'm just gonna
Mhm.
take a shower and like just chill for a bit. Or I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go there, park in the car park, and then go across the street to the mall because at least I changed my environment.
Yeah.
So it's always just about kind of being in the moment, asking yourself what you need and can you get your needs met in a different way, and can you be easier on yourself? Can you be more compassionate with yourself? Like,
Grace.
can you
Yeah.
get more support?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.